Hey guys, it's Genevieve here, and I am very excited to announce that this week I am part of this massive collaboration here on YouTube featuring a whole ton of amazing artists, such as Achat Fel, Art for Fun, Caddy Mayer Art, Confused Ginger, Dark Warrior, Ellie, Isa Art, myself, Luna Goes Art, Lunar Sky, and Nazreen. This is a collaboration that was set up a couple of months ago, and in this collaboration, all of us artists are going to be making one piece surrounding a single theme, which we decided long ago was going to be nightmares and fairy tales. So anyways, now that I've introduced the collab and all of the amazing artists that are going to be in it, I suggest that you finish watching this video before going into the description box below and checking out all the links for their channels that I have set up. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy the video. So I was really excited when I learned that we were going to be doing nightmares and fairy tales as the theme for this collaboration. I'm a really big fan of fairy tales, and I also really love anything that's grotesque and horror-filled. If any of you guys know, I'm a really big fan of the horror genre, especially in video games. Not so much for horror movies, because I feel like the pace of horror movies is it can be either too slow, so not scary enough, or too fast, and so you're never really afraid because they never established a solid, enemy or monster, but that's a story for a different video. This video is about kind of how I went about choosing what I wanted to focus my piece on, and I racked my brain for a while and actually did some thumbnails in my sketchbook before I came up with the idea of taking a classic fairy tale such as Hansel and Gretel, for example, and staying within the realm of, I guess, canon for the story, but giving it a new skin, giving it a new identity. So what I ended up going with was Hansel and Gretel, and I actually didn't do very much research on the story of Hansel and Gretel, so I'm not sure if they're siblings or twins or 12-year-old lovers or something like that, but in my little, I guess, story illustration, Hansel and Gretel are conjoined twins. And I know in the original story they're supposed to be children, maybe between the ages of like 8 and 12 or whatever, but for the sake of my little story, I decided to age them up and, make them young adults. And I guess the setting for the story that this illustration fits into would be Hansel and Gretel are conjoined twins who, when they were children, defeated an evil witch who was trying to kill and eat them. They outsmarted her and they escaped her, and maybe they even killed her. I haven't worked out the fine points of the story, but basically, Hansel and Gretel escaped the evil witch who was trying to harm them when they were children, and, they escaped, they outsmarted her, and so they went on to live their lives, and they grew up. Well, now they're all grown up, they're young adults, and they've been invited to this grand ball or party, and all of their other fairy tale friends are going to be there. And so they go through the forest and they arrive at this grand master mansion, and it's beautiful, and the two are so excited to be there. But then Gretel gets this odd feeling as they're riding through the carriage in the forest, and she can't help but shake the feeling that they'd been in this particular forest before. She tries to get her brother Hansel to, reconcile with her. Not reconcile, but she tells him her concerns, and, being the brother that he is, he's just like, don't worry about it, Gretel. It's probably just in your imagination. And so he thinks nothing of it, but Gretel is very nervous about what's going on. She has this really bad feeling, but she can't quite place what it is. And so the setting of this illustration takes place as they stepped out of the carriage, and Gretel's feeling of unease is at its peak, and she's like, Hansel, I don't think we should go in there. And Hansel's just like, don't worry about it. You're being a wuss. You're being a big baby. And he's like, come on, Gretel, let's go inside. Everybody's leaving us behind. And then, because I kind of wanted to make this piece very, I guess, ethereal or surreal, I decided to forego an actual background and instead just have this huge hand reaching out for them in the background to give it kind of this very eerie sense of danger. It's very clear from the black background and the large, pale, sickly looking hand that Hansel and Gretel are in danger. But for some reason, Gretel is the only one who seems to catch on to this feeling of unease. Maybe she has some kind of powers, maybe clairvoyance, or maybe she's just more perceptive than her brother. I'm not really sure yet. Like I said, I haven't exactly fleshed out the universe that this illustration or this story would take place in, but I really, really liked the concept of it. And honestly, the more I was working on this piece, the more my brain just kept, it just kept working and thinking, okay, what are the details? How did they end up in this situation? Why are they dressed in this way? So, the more I worked on this piece, the more the universe that it took place in kind of just built itself. And honestly, I was kind of thinking about writing like a little mini fan fiction for this illustration, which I might do in the future, but, for right now, for the sake of both time constraints, because I don't know how to manage my time, and this video is supposed to be uploaded tonight, so I don't exactly have time to do all those things on top of the other work I have to do. In fact, I actually have to get started doing my other work pretty soon, but that aside, I decided to have this video kind of focus more on my process of doing the piece, and then, give you bits and pieces of the lore and the story kind of as we go along. So in terms of my process for this piece, like I said, I started out with just a couple sketches and thumbnails in my sketchbook, which, kind of grew into this entire idea, if that makes any sense. Basically, what I mean is, when I usually do a piece, I kind of just start sketching in my large sketchbook, and then if I start to get something that I like, I'll keep fleshing that sketch out until, I get something that's really, really good. But because this is such a big collaboration, and I wanted to do something that was, really thought out and actually planned, I decided to do some thumbnail sketches first, which I never do. And then once I found something that I really liked, I would just go with that idea. Well, true to my process of working on things, the Hansel and Gretel sketch was actually the first and only set of thumbnails that I did. I actually had a couple of other ideas for fairy tales that I could do. Like, I could have done a Beauty and the Beast one, I could have done a Little Mermaid one, I actually had an idea for a Hunchback of Notre Dame kind of idea. But I don't know, there was just something about this piece and kind of the eeriness to it, and like the sense of like danger and darkness behind them that just really caught my eye. And so that's kind of how I decided to go with this piece. And in terms of the medium I used, I am currently painting in gouache. As for kind of the style, I thought that maybe initially I wanted to do more of a painterly style, so kind of have it be like a nice blend of colors. But then as I was blocking in just like the base tones for the skin and the background, I realized I kind of like how it just looks all blocked in and kind of the simplicity of everything. So you've got like just the dark black background, and then you have, kind of the warm tones of the twins' skin and, their golden blonde hair. And then you have like kind of the pale and white and sickly looking color of the hand. And I think everything just kind of looked so well contrasting like that because, you know, both the hand and the twins, they're a stark contrast to the dark and bleak background, but then the warm tones in the siblings' skin is a stark contrast from the cool undertones of the witch's hand behind them. So I just thought that, like, all of the contrasts that you see, it just looked so nice that I was like, you know what? I'll save the painterly style for another day. You know, maybe for a piece where there's a lot more detail in the background, and so, you know, a painterly style, you know, for something like a still life. Still lifes are the kind of pieces where a painterly style is a really good to use because, you know, there's so much detail in what you're painting that having those mix and blend of colors is what really brings it to life. But for something like this where it's just so surreal and so, you know, fairy tale-like, I just felt that, like, the kind of blocked off colors without much, you know, added detail just gave it such a nice, like a nice illustrations, like just a nice style. Like you looks like something that you would find on the cover of like a children's book, which I think goes really well with, you know, this kind of theme and this kind of piece because it's based off of fairy tales and nightmares. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody had made a children's illustration book about, you know, Hansel and Gretel all grown up and having to face the evil witch again or something like that, you know. I think that something like that would be really, really cool. But alas, I'm not here to pitch an idea for a children's illustration book. I'm here to tell you about this piece that I did. So moving on to more of the colors that I chose, like I said, the dark black background contrasts with the skin tones of both the hand and the twins. The reason why I chose warm undertones for the twins' skin is because I kind of wanted that to I wanted the warm undertones to, like, really show basically that, like, they were alive. Like, you know, they're alive, they're adults, they're grown up. Kind of just give them more warmth, I guess. And then the cool undertones on the witch's hand behind them could kind of be a symbol of her, you know, either being dead or, you know, not having much contact with the sun. So kind of just playing off of the idea of warm undertones symbolizing kind of more of, I guess, the good characters, whereas the cool undertone kind of symbolizing the bad character. So something like that. I don't know if I did a very good job of explaining it, but that's kind of the process that I went through while choosing whether, like, kind of the skin tones for those two points. And then as for their clothing, I kind of gave both of them kind of like a blue, or in Hansel's case, like a bluish gray toned outfit, mostly because I made them like golden blondes. So, you know, they have such rich and colorful blonde hair that I figured, well, blue and yellow are complementary colors on the color wheel, so if I give them like nice blonde hair, then it would, I just figured that giving them kind of blue-based outfits would really balance the piece out and give it like a nice harmonious color palette. And honestly, I'm actually really pleased with that decision. I really, really like how like they're just blonde hair color looks over top like their blue or blue toned clothing. And so that was kind of my thought process for the colors. And then after I finished coloring everything, I was initially planning on doing some typography for the piece, but I wasn't confident in my skills to actually pull it off, so ultimately I decided to just black out the typography, and maybe later on in Photoshop I'll go in and I'll add some typography in like post editing or something while I'm editing out all of like the mistakes. But the final thing I do for this piece is I go in and I add some very minor ink work. Now, because the background is black, I didn't really feel the need to ink everything, and I kind of really enjoyed the just using the colors as a means of separating the different, objects. So the only places I actually like inked was to add some minor details like in their hair, or like for example around their necks to separate the jaw from the neck, and around their eyes, nose, and mouth, and things like that. I went in with a 01 Sakura micron pen and added these details. I just think it gave, the piece a really nice and, final look by adding the line art and the details in the pen. And it also gave me a lot more control, because if I'd tried to do the inking using a paintbrush, which I know a lot of people ink using paintbrushes, but I just wasn't confident in my ability to do that. So I just decided to go in with a pen and add those minor details. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about this piece. I'm really, really pleased with how it turned out, and I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my process for doing this piece. If any of the other artists taking part of this collaboration are watching this video, I hope you guys like what I did, and I can't wait to see what you guys came up with in your videos. So yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button down below and subscribe to my channel for more content coming every Monday and Thursday. And if you want to see all of the other amazing artists and the pieces that they did for this collaboration, make sure you check out the links in the description box below. I will have all of them down there. And yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this very special video, and let me know if you'd like to see me do more collaborations in the future. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I will see you all next time. Bye!